It was just an experience I had back in 2004, so 15, 16 years ago. At the time, I was a junior doctor doing an on-call shift. So in those days, we used to do the whole night, so the whole day and the whole night. And I got called by the nurse to attend an ill patient on what was termed the surgical high dependency unit. And so I approached, went up to the ward, and the patient saw me at that time and became abusive, swore. I can't repeat the...
No, please don't.
I can't repeat the words on the radio. And then said a racist remark beginning with P. Yeah. I don't want to be treated by that P doctor. The nurse, I could see, was visibly shocked. It took me by surprise as well, because obviously I'd been working in the NHS for about 4 or 5 years at that time, and it was probably the first time that happened. But I could see, from the end of the bed that the patient wasn't well, so I tried to block out what had been said at that time and went to attend the patient, even though she wasn't happy about that. But the fact is that she was unwell and she needed treating. So, as doctors, we do face dilemmas like that all the time.
And she let you treat her?
With resistance initially, but then the nurse was also there, and it wasn't as if she could, because, she was really struggling to breathe at that time. If I hadn't given her the treatment, then she would have probably had a respiratory arrest. So, it's one of those things where you have to weigh up that, can I go ahead and do this, even though the patient has explicitly said, for me, not to approach her because of the colour of my skin or what she perceived me to be? Or, are we going to let this patient potentially die?
You see, maybe I shouldn't think this, but my initial thought when you said that was the first time you'd experienced it in 5 years, I was actually quite surprised, which is a horrific thing to be surprised, really, isn't it?
When I say that, I guess it was the first time I'd experienced it at work.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I'd been born and brought up in this country and had plenty of this type of thing going on at school all the time. So, not so much at university, because there's much more diverse people when you do go to university. But I think it was the first time that I'd experienced it at work. But I guess the other thing to bear in mind as well, though, is not only comes from patients, sometimes it can come from colleagues as well. So to get to, now I'm a consultant within the NHS. Ironically, I'm back working at that same institution. I don't want to name it. But, you sort of like think that during my time in the NHS, I think at that time, things are slightly different now. But at that time, you needed to work probably 25 to 50% harder than your contemporary Caucasian or white colleagues to get to the position that you were at, even though you'd be passing the exams just like them. But to actually get those positions or get those job opportunities that could progress you to become a consultant were much more difficult.
How long ago was this?
So I graduated back in 2000, so I guess just past, I don't know if you're aware, but there was a change in how the training system worked by Kalman after he did a review back in 95, and so it tried to take out some of these prejudices where all consultants would appoint their favourite people into positions, and that cycle would continue to make it more open. But I think that took a bit of time for it to come in, whereas now, if you look at all major teaching hospitals, you'll see plenty of consultants who are of ethnicity within there. You might have seen them yourself, even GPs as well. So I think that the NHS has always had a zero-tolerance policy.
And the fact is that the NHS would not exist without members of staff from ethnic minorities and indeed people from other countries. When I had my appointment yesterday, I saw 5 different people. Only one of them you would say was sort of Caucasian British.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have any issue with that whatsoever, but there will be people that do, and there will be people who don't keep their views to themselves. I mean, do you think it is right that you should now be able to withdraw treatment from people who hold those views?
I guess you have to make a judgment call, isn't it? At the end of the day, I think you mentioned it earlier in your programme as I was driving home from work, about the Hippocratic Oath.
Yeah.
And that is the basis for which we do our medical practice. So if somebody is intentionally harming staff and purposely trying to aggravate them, then it becomes more difficult to treat somebody like that. However, we have to bear in mind that sometimes people may say these things or act in these ways because they're unwell as well.
Yeah.
So it could be the case that either, somebody's got a severe infection that has made them, be aggressive or act or say things that normally they wouldn't do under normal circumstances, but there's no way of knowing that. So once you give that patient that antibiotic, they've been treated for 2 days, it might be that they get better and they think, oh my God, why did I do that? Why did I say that? Because a lot of the time patients don't know that they're doing it. So it can be difficult to weed out those patients from the ones that are just permanently aggressive and, I don't know, members of the BNP or whoever it might be. But I guess you come across those people far less within the NHS itself. Like I said, that was the first time in 5 years, and since then, I've not had another incident like that.
Well, let's keep it that way.